Hey everybody, welcome to the Art of Reading Smoke here on YouTube Live with Phil Jose. Super happy to be here today. Got a lot, we'll talk about some stuff. We'll definitely be looking at some video today. As always, when I'm looking at these videos, especially when I'm looking online, I'm always looking for some way to help spread the Reading Smoke Nation the Reading Smoke message to you all out there in the Reading Smoke Nation. I appreciate you being part of my YouTube channel. Again, I know it gets a little old, but I like to ask everybody to like, subscribe. Please make comments too, especially if you have a question about the video or some insight. I mean, there's always things on these videos that I don't see. When I teach the classes in person, I'm using some of the videos I've been using for a couple of years because they're really good at spreading home or at transmitting the message that I'm making at the time, like smoke is fuel, that sort of thing. But invariably when I watch these videos, I find something new that I didn't notice before. And that's especially true with these videos that I'm using on the SBSK Facebook site and the videos I go here, because I'm not watching them a bunch of times. I'm watching them once or twice. I get the content in, and then I sort of move on. So there's always more learning to do, and I appreciate we have some insights here. All right, I got a lot of subscribers last week. I think that's because some advertisements went out for some classes. As soon as I have those available, probably next week, I'll start noticing those in the show notes. We're going to do some virtual stuff over the next couple months, and I'm definitely getting my schedule together for the second half of 2021 and into 2022. Got a lot of reschedules, obviously. But some really good stuff coming up this year, including, if you haven't heard already, FDIC has moved to the third week of August. I think it's like the 17th to the 22nd. So if you're interested in going to FDIC, if you've already got registration, whatever it is, come be part of the biggest firefighter show and see me there live and in person. Hopefully teaching on the 19th, which is Wednesday. That's a Saturday. I'm so used to FDIC first day being on Wednesday, I couldn't even remember. But the 19th of August, that's the 21st of August is a Saturday. Hey, a lot of new subscribers this week. Chris Weston, Isaac Scott Booth, Christian Dion, Robbie Owens. Hey, Nooch 2222. That's kind of a fun one. I'm wondering what that's about. Andrew Reiger, Gary Flesher, Carter Cole, filter number 808. Glad to have you on board. Chris Wilkie. Hey, Tanner, I'm going to try your last name. If I butcher it, please understand I'm giving you my best effort, man. Tanner Dajkowski, I think is how that goes, or something like that. Dajkowski. So, Tanner, welcome aboard. Patrick Crowley, Striker 744, Kevin Schmidt. The Reading Fire Training, I'm hoping you guys are finding these videos good for company level training. It's really be nice to hear if that's the case. BA0412, Thomas Baird, Terrence Francesconi, I love that last name. Paul Beidiger, Chris Pellington, and another Chris Maleshko. And Chris, if I butchered that last name to you, let me know, okay? Hey, so what we're looking at today, one of the things that always strikes me when I look at these videos is the degree to which I can look at them and say, oh, I remember when we were doing some ventilation on this roof or that roof. And so I like this this one we're going to focus on some ventilation aspects, but what's our initial read on what's going on in this building, right? So volume, do we have a high volume? Sure. Turbulent or laminar, man, look at that turbulence coming out there. Lots of energy coming out of the roof, right? I mean, look at this turbulence. It's just blowing out here. I mean, the wind's actually coming from left to right here, from the sort of the Alpha Bravo corner. And look at the turbulence enough of just pushing out and then going around, right? So high volume, turbulent. And I would say this is pretty thick smoke. We're sort of focusing on up front, but we also have a really significant column coming out the back. I'm going to roll it back just so we can watch it again. And there's another pretty good view. You can see a little flame there, but a pretty significant fire. And look, we got smoke all the way down. I mean, all the way down on this end of the building, right? And coming out on the eaves all along this edge, right? So pretty significant fire working, and enough smoke being produced that's coming out under pressure with turbulence, really along the whole eave edge and on both of the gable ends of this pretty long apartment building. Now, so as we start to just talk about the beginning, in some of the comments on the Facebook site, a really great recognition is this is a wind-fed fire, right? And it's like, well, in a wind-fed fire, this will happen. Remember this video, right? Originally 2013, I think, so 6 or 7 years old. And remember that the whole discussion about wind-fed fires was just getting started then. I mean, thanks to a lot of hard work from UL NIST and from the FDNY. Chicago was a big part of that. I can't tell everybody. I can't remember everybody who was part of that process, but we've learned a lot about wind-fed fire. Shows you how much we've learned. Okay, so one of the things that we're looking at when we're going to do ventilation is what's the situation now and what do we want it to be when we complete our ventilation, right? And so the whole purpose of ventilation is to remove toxic gases from the structure and hopefully make it more tenable for the firefighters and whatever civilians may be inside, right? So that's our goal, is to get that stuff, get that nasty stuff out of there. Remember, smoke is fuel, and the more fuel is being produced, which in this case, there's a lot of fuel being produced by this fire, right? So when we do ventilation, whether it's horizontal, whether it's vertical, what we want to do is we want to try to redirect that so that all the smoke is being directed out of the building through the vertical opening or horizontally, right? And horizontal and vertical ventilation in coordination with fire attack, right, is a great way to achieve total extinguishment. But we also have learned, again, from UL NIST and a lot of partners, that when we add ventilation, we're going to get increased fire behavior, right? And so the timing and the coordination is what we're looking for. But what we're looking at in this video is just reading from the smoke. I'm going to let it roll through now. The fire itself is going to ventilate, right? That's what happens here. The fire department doesn't ventilate, but the fire ventilates, and you can see when it creates a bigger ventilation opening, almost instantaneously, we lose all of this other pressure that we had. We have some residual smoke here, but basically nothing coming out of the attic anymore, right? And so a couple things have happened here. Most notably, big ventilation opening. We've changed all of this from exhaust to intake, right? All along this edge. The pattern and flow changed dramatically. We talked about this, I think it was about a month ago, big commercial building fire in Southern California. Okay, the other thing that's going on is that because we increase the ventilation, we're going to see increased fire behavior. And because, remember, a basic premise of reading smoke is fuel. That's our baseline, right? That's where we start. And because smoke is fuel, and because we have increased ventilation and increased fire behavior, a lot of the smoke is getting consumed. So even though we've done a nice job, if we had ventilated this, we would have done a really nice job of changing the flow. This increased fire behavior is going to result in a lot of what was the volume of smoke before getting consumed, and therefore decreasing overall volume, while the temperature, the heat, the energy, all those things are still going up. So what's coming off of this flame is going to be much thinner. Thin, black, and fast is typically what we have from a well-ventilated fire nearby. You see, it doesn't take too long before the fire, even at that, starts to grow even beyond our ability to ventilate it, a little bit of ventilation. And we're going to see pretty soon there's going to be fire coming out here. But let's talk about if it's us ventilating and we're on the outside of the structure, what we really want to see is a change, right? We want to see a change in smoke flow, and to indicate that our ventilation opening is adequate, right? So if we open ventilation and there's no change, it's not adequate. In this case, we have a very good size opening, right? Probably, not probably. If you could cut a hole that big in 15 or 20 seconds, I'd give you a lot of credit, right? Typically, what we do is we start cutting and we start venting, and we have to decide, are we going to vent more? Do we have an adequate vent? And what we want to look at in that case is a combination of two things. One is reading the smoke, volume, velocity, density, color. What changed from the previous, right? Before we started ventilating, what did it look like? And now that we are ventilating, what does it look like? Okay, and that's from the reading smoke perspective. The other thing we want to do if we're doing ventilation is recognize that we're doing it in support of a company making a fire attack. And so, although initially, right off the bat, we ventilate, we're going to get more fire behavior. What should happen relatively quickly after that, I started there a little, relatively quickly after we ventilate and after we see that increase in fire behavior, what we should see is a rapid decrease in fire behavior as the engine company is hitting the seat of the fire from the inside or wherever they're applying their water from, right? It could be from outside, but typically, like in this case, if we had a crew up here vertically ventilating, we'd also think we'd have a crew moving inside, right? If we had the resources to take care of that. So we look at the smoke and we go, okay, in this case, the ventilation does a really nice job of changing the smoke flow, right? But there's a significant increase in fire behavior. Before I vented more, I'd want to see the engine company making progress, right? So there's this balance, and one is you have the reading smoke from the volume and velocity and density perspective, right, added in with the fire behavior that we have here. The other is that you'd want to see the color significantly change, and from black, brown, grays, we'd want to start seeing columns of white smoke from water, from steam being applied immediately after we ventilate, right? That does actually happen in this case. You'll see, I think I ran it long enough, but there is a line in there, but they just don't have, in this case, it doesn't appear to me they have adequate resources to make a significant initial stop here, and they're going to start flowing water from that ladder pipe. But we can see for quite a while here, we have really a nice view of the smoke being still being produced. There's still plenty of smoke being produced in this attic, right? But most of it's being consumed by the fire. So overall volume is down. Density and color, color is obviously black now. And we have a lot of turbulence because there's a significant amount of heat being produced. All right, we can see the fire now through the pulled ceiling, and pretty soon we'll see fire coming out the ends, the gable end of this roof, right? Boom, right there. Okay, and that's coming out against the wind, right? So the force of the fire, right? The power, the pressure that's being created by this fire is in excess even of the wind. Okay, so there's a lot of things to consider when you're doing ventilation from the outside and you're trying to help the engine crew. One is getting yourself in the position. Two is recognizing that by looking at volume, velocity, density, color, we can get a pretty good idea of the location of the fire. Our shortcut for that is the highest velocity from the most restricted opening. And it doesn't have to be volume. It can definitely be velocity. We can see all along here, in addition to this big column in the back. But if we didn't have that sort of indicator, we'd want to look for the highest velocity from the most restricted opening, and that's going to get us closest to the seat of the fire. And don't be hesitant to use that tick too. You want to vent as close to the seat of the fire as possible most of the time, right? And so we can see the smoke conditions before we ventilate. We can see the smoke conditions after we ventilate, right? And then if we were in the situation where we had a hole here, we had fire coming out of it, but we still had smoke pushing out along all these eaves, we'd want to make that hole bigger in concert with making sure the engine company's getting water on the seat of the fire, right? I wouldn't increase the ventilation opening just based on reading the smoke until I had some confirmation, either by radio or by listening or by seeing what's going on with the color of the smoke, if the engine company's hitting it hard. If you see they're hitting it hard, yeah, make that ventilation opening basically as big as possible, right? And I would say, my take on it would be keep ventilating until the primary search is done, right? Our mission, right, is to save lives, and ventilation makes that happen. Fire attack, obviously, too, right? I'm not saying we don't need to attack the fire, because we certainly do. But in this case, that's what we can learn and see from this event here, is that difference, that excellent ventilation, whether it's horizontal, vertical, however you're doing it, what's going on before, what's going on as we start to ventilate, and what's going to go on long term. Pop it forward so we can just get a sense of this fire is just growing, and they are gonna start from the aerial apparatus. And I always like to reiterate, that we had a few negative comments, and I like to really keep it positive and think about what can I learn from this video. Remember a couple things. One, I don't know what the staffing, I don't know what the response model is, I don't know the training level, I don't know any of those things about this fire department. Two, this is almost a decade ago. And three, the video never shows everything that's going on. One thing I can see here is that a lot of these doors are open, which tells me there's been some effort to get all the people out of this building, right? And so what the timing is, how things are going, those aren't my concern. What my concern is looking at the volume, velocity, density, color, comparing those to the box, understanding what my role is on the fire ground, whether it's fire attack, whether it's ventilation, whether it's search. What impact can I anticipate from the smoke, where I should ventilate? If we stick to ventilation, which is the primary goal of this video, where should I ventilate? What happens what should I expect, right? What should I expect when I ventilate to move from here to here? That's excellent from a ventilation perspective. What do I want to see next is fire attack, killing this thing, and then we can move on, right? Okay, so as always, hey, I'd love comments. Comments really help me understand what you find good, or what I can improve on the video. I appreciate thumbs up and stuff like that too. Next couple of weeks, we'll be announcing some classes and putting the links and stuff in the show notes for you. And with that, this is Phil Jost for the Art of Reading Smoke, going out to the Reading Smoke Nation and the SBSK Nation. Hey, thanks for being here today, and I hope you find this valuable, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, everybody. Bye.